Hello, everyone. I'm Paul Galloro.
And I'm Claudia Micco. And together, we're the Mind Body Misfits. Don't make a big deal about
Don't make
it.
a big deal about it, girl. And you sure didn't.
I didn't. I did.
Welcome, everyone. We are the Mind Body Misfits, and we are so excited that you're all here. Before we get into the show, though, we just want to take a moment to thank everyone who watched our Mind Body Misfit chats on the Instagram. Thank you for watching. Thank you for participating and also for encouraging us to turn this into a podcast. Claudia, I have to say that was like a highlight for me. Us getting together every Thursday, 5 o'clock Eastern, to do our little Mind Body Misfits. And it's so exciting to
It
bring it
was
in
a
this
lot of fun.
format.
Yeah, lots of fun. It definitely kept me on schedule and, organized with something to do every week. Oh, I loved it. And because I am a misfit and I don't want to make a big deal about it, which one day we will talk about. It was just nice being live on Instagram and I don't know, just seeing people's names come up and people So I really enjoyed that. And I'm looking forward to talking more about mind body misfits and why we are misfits and what we're going to do with this podcast.
Yes, there's a lot. We have so many wonderful ideas, so many amazing guests that we have lined up and in our sort of wish list. But before we get into that, why don't we tell everyone a little bit about ourselves? Because, we've had our lives before meeting each other. And then once we met each other, it was just like instant connection. So why don't you start?
Yes. Well, and we're continuing to learn about each other daily.
Yes. It's like
Anyway.
minutely.
Minutely. Well, so my name is Claudia, as all of you know, and I met Paul in like 2014, summer 2014 at CanFit Pro, which is the conference that now we're doing or we just did, and that Paul is very, very connected to and loves very much. So
true.
we had this opportunity. Yeah, that's where we met. But he was teaching at this conference in 2014, and I met him there. And I'm just so happy to know you. And we connected, we traveled, we worked with Yoga Fit. We had a great time. We met in Australia one time and we had the best time. We had the best students. And then we didn't see each other. And then the pandemic happened and we reconnected online. So this is the beauty of the whole internet now and the pandemic. If you need to find that silver lining, here it is.
It brought the two of us together in podcast form.
It did. Well, ultimately, yes, because we were hanging out online. I mean, during the pandemic, I don't know, we can get into that another day, but
yeah,
we created a lot of intimacy in our friendship and in our working relationship online.
Now, I've admired you since like the moment we met. I mean, it wasn't until like
I loved it. I loved you too right away.
and what there's so much that I could go on about you, but I won't. I'll let you do that. But I just love your approach to. You've been working in fitness for a long time. I'll let you talk all about that, and you've covered so many things in your beautifully rich and full career. And it's just always been such an inspiration for me. And for us to have these conversations, it means a lot to me. So I'm so happy that we're doing this together. But you want to tell everybody a little bit about your journey that brought you to this moment where you and I are now the Mind Body Misfits.
So my journey begins my journey begins right out of the womb. I was kicking and screaming and jumping around even then. I was a trauma survivor of many forms, but the form that really got me the most was a critical car accident. And in my rehab and I had many surgeries. I will talk about that another day because it's a long story, but a good story. I was in physical therapy and because I couldn't walk, and when I started walking again, I had to go to physical therapy. So I am doing like leg raises with these little ankle weights on. And that was like when I realized that I wanted to do something with the body And at the time, it was 1982 or something. I didn't even know there was a gym. I just figured out, I'm going to go to like the health spa, and snuck into the health spa and got into taking aerobics classes. And I just got really interested, but I was still pretty young. And then when I turned 18, I started working at my girlfriend's, from the grade above me's, women's health spa. See, I put it in quotes because back then it was like women's, men's, gyms, men's, men's gyms, men's, and it wasn't integrated as much as it is now. So anyway, I got into it that way, and then I was looking for certification, and there was no certification. Now we're like in 1984 to 1985, trying to figure out what to do. I am reading the Back Shape magazine, and I see in the Back Shape magazine, the Weider publication was very popular in the 80s, especially, a little ad for come to Maui and learn how to do mind-body exercise, mind-body fitness. Come to Maui, learn yoga, Tai Chi, weights, aerobics. I think it said something like transform yourself. So I was like, okay, I got to figure out how to get to this. So I just put it all out there, and everybody said, no, you can't do it. And it was a 2-month intensive mind body fitness training in 1985 before there was any, even idea. I don't think they might have just were going to start their certification back then. And there was some stuff, but there wasn't a lot. And I was blown up. I went to this training, and it was for 8 weeks, every day from 7 a.m. until 5:30 p.m. You were either in, exercise phys class, nutrition, you had to go to weights, you had to do yoga, you had to do Tai Chi. It was like going to like the Rancho La Puerta kind of thing, but you were actually having to work for a certificate. So 5 days a week you did that. We also had organic food. There was a chef. It was quite awesome.
Wow.
On a farm, no TV, and definitely no internet because they did not have that back then. And so that's kind of my story in a nutshell. That's how I got to learn all the things that I know, was because I went to this very intensive training way before it was even a thing. As a matter of fact, they used to say it was a cult. And when I did that training and then I moved to San Francisco, I waited till I got my ID. I didn't even show people that certificate because it had so much like stuff on it that was very woo-woo for them, for the fitness industry, like definitely Tai Chi and yoga and psychoanalysis and shit like bioenergetics. It was not something that you put out like as your training license,
Right.
because it was a little too avant-garde. Right. So ultimately, I stayed on the trajectory of mind-body fitness, even though it wasn't popular. But I did learn how to be an excellent choreographer, and I studied dance. And I was in some performances. I got into bodybuilding. I became a bodybuilder, did a show, did stuff around that area for a long time, worked in Gold's gyms. And, so I've been around the block, then ultimately came back and I ran the school, which was my alma mater, for about 6 years in the 90s. And that's kind of how I got back to Hawaii. And now I'm in private practice, and I see people with chronic illness, trauma of different sorts. I do hypnosis, so I do a lot of different things. And that's about me.
Yeah.
And time's up. Don't make a big deal about it.
Don't make a big deal about it. You're right. No, but that's amazing. And again, like I said, you have so much experience, and it's not like you're not, focused on just one area. You have studied it all. You experience it all. Even for those of you that don't know, Claudia and I, we do work out together. So Claudia is my trainer, and even in our sessions, it's not just one thing, or we're not just like you're blending it all. And the stuff that I love the most, and this, I could go on about it forever, is the bioenergetics.
It's so fabulous.
Right?
Huh?
It's amazing.
Love it.
like you can incorporate it with resistance training and it feels one way, and then you can incorporate it with Pilates or yoga and it feels a different way, but it's always it's just so grounding and so
It is, and you're so good. It's so good to mention that because it's all about feeling.
yes.
But not just happy feelings. Sometimes it's not so happy feelings, but looking for the dynamics and the contrasts between the two and sitting in it. That's, I think, but you're moving in it with bioenergetics because you're doing it with your exercises, and it was designed as exercise.
Yes. Yeah. And so that's the best part. It's not making
people just sit in meditation. And, don't get me wrong, because, like people start canceling you. I've been doing yoga for a long time, many, many years. It's awesome. But everybody needs sometimes a different way in.
Yes.
Not everybody is willing to, to sit still, including myself.
Yeah. Well, and I know for that.
But I love meditation too.
Yes. And I know with that statement, I know for myself, there are some things that I can sit and meditate my way through, but then there's other things that I can't sit and meditate my way through. And that's where bioenergetics comes in, where it allows you to not have to sit there and meditate your way through it, where you can move it through it. You can breathe through it. You can scream through it. Like there's ways to move that energy. And if you ask me, that's really what the essence of this mind body work that we do, but we'll save that for
I agree with you
later.
On that. And Gloria would probably agree too. She's here on Island, by the way.
We got to get her on the show.
About Gloria another day, the woman who started this training that I've been talking about. So, where we're going to go. So bringing it back to what you just said, we take this journey, and you kind of never know where it's going to go. Mm-hmm. But with bioenergetics, what I like the most about nowadays, you kind of have to sit in meditation most of your just regular day. Mm-hmm. So if you go to work and you have to take the bus or you got to drive or you got to deal with traffic, you have to meditate through that, because that's when you could be the biggest asshole of the day.
Yeah.
So it's true. You're waiting in line at the store. There are the moments to practice that. And that's why it's good practice, meditation, because it teaches you how to be, there, especially now when we need to be more there. Mm-hmm. Because we can't go sit on a mountain.
Right.
So when I have to do that all day, the last thing I want to do is when I'm working out, I want to let it out. I don't want to hold anything back in. So I think bioenergetics is really good, especially for people who have a tendency to let it out, to the waitress or whatever. Yeah. Not that I would ever do that, by the way, but I'm just saying that it's really good for that too.
Right.
Because there are times when you don't want to just sit and meditate. And so it's almost like a reverse way to get in to getting people to pay attention. So whenever you're giving yourself your most generous attention, you're doing a form of hypnosis on yourself.
Right.
Right. So you have your most generous attention. You are hypnotizing yourself. You are at one. You're in a meditation, whether it's sitting, but when you're in that state, you're in meditation.
Right. And I'm really looking forward to the episode when we discuss what hypnosis is, because you and I have had these conversations offline, obviously.
I know, it'll be fun to talk about it.
Yeah, because hypnosis has there's a preconceived notion that people have of what hypnosis is. And it can scare a lot of people, right? And so, but the thing is,
You're getting sleepy. You are getting sleepy. Now, here's the thing.
Just kidding.
I know. But there is, and we can get into this in another episode, but there is research on EMDR, right, which is this specific form of eye desensitizing, podcast listeners, which helps the nervous system. And it has to do with moving your eyes in certain patterns with a light. But any form of eye movement helps. So part of that, like people have this preconceived notion of hypnosis, and I'm going to wave this thing in front of you. And anything can be waved in front of you
Mm-hmm.
and be hypnotized. I mean, sex is for sale,
Mm-hmm.
so anything can be waved and you can be mesmerized by it,
Right.
which is where where it comes from. Mesmerizing, that the word, doesn't really mean sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Mesmer was, anyway, we can get into that another
We'll get
day.
into that
The
another
history
time.
of hypnosis.
But
But the word mesmerized comes to mind.
right. Yeah. Well, I just want to circle back to sort of your journey, because speaking, like, I've heard you tell the story many times. I love it. I can listen to it all the time.
God.
Um, but I mean, your journey,
Okay.
but there's so many parallels, even though we've had different experiences. I will say that you and I have had a lot of similar experiences that manifested in different ways. I heard you say that you got into physical exercise after a car accident. Now, I originally got into fitness when I decided to quit smoking cigarettes and become a healthy non-smoker. And I had hired a personal trainer, and I was just so in love with what she helped me achieve that I thought to myself, I want to help other people do this.
Oh, how did she make you feel?
Just like powerful, like I could do anything. Anytime I went with like I can't do this, she's like, no, you can, try it. Then she would break like some of the hardest things down for me. Now, it was scary for me to get into a gym because of the high school experiences that I had, being the little skinny Twinkie boy that all the big soccer, I went to a school full of Italians. So all of the big Italian soccer players were making fun of the little faggy boy there. And so it was scary for me to get into a gym, but she made me feel so powerful. She would put me on a BOSU and she'd be like, look what you can do. I would pick up 30 pounds and do chest press. And I just felt so amazing. And I was like, well, if she can do that for me, I want to help other people do this as well.
Isn't it so great?
So great. So I got into personal training first. And then I also heard you say you snuck into a spa. I used to sneak into a gym with my friends.
Oh, cool.
Pass. Yep. I had a long Greek name every time I scanned her card. It was amazing. It was a female Greek name. But anywho, then I got into group fitness, and it just sort of progressed from there.
What was your first group fitness class?
My first group fitness class that I did was body pump, believe it or not.
All right. So it was like a strength training
It was a strength training class. We had a bar. We were doing like little pushy things and lifty things, and it was stuff that I had known,
but
and I felt and I felt confident going in because it was the stuff that Melissa and I had done together.
Right.
So then I was just doing it to music, and I love me some music. So it became super fun for me.
Yeah.
And then I started teaching group fitness. But what kind of really brought it all together for me was I had a spiritual practice before I even got into fitness. I was already doing the Louise Hay stuff and the positive psychology and affirmations and all of that stuff.
Astrology
I'd already been doing for a long time. So, but I had a health situation that happened in 2008 that I had to like reevaluate everything, what I was eating, how I was eating, just my lifestyle in general. Mm-hmm. And that sort of brought me even deeper into, whereas before, and there's nothing wrong with this, but before it was about like just moving and getting active and having fun. And then I turned it into more of a healing modality.
Right.
Which as fitness professionals, we have that opportunity to help our clients and our students and the people that we work with heal, not just get fit, not just feel the burn, but to actually transform. You said that word earlier. And
transform yourself. Yes.
Exactly. So it's cool.
Or not. But better. Yeah. I mean, right. Don't make a big, just don't make a big deal.
Yeah. But I love how we sort of, we got to it in our own way, but we came to it sort of similarly. And now here we are collaborating on ways that we can.
And also with the knowledge of meditation, it really, when you start lifting and you start doing regular fun exercise, you are meditating on the fun, of it.
Totally.
So I think that's why you probably really got into it, as you saw the or felt the spirit is, your spirit or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Connect with that energy.
Right. Right. Now, we can keep on talking about this and we can go in so many
Oh, I
different
know. We
ways,
could
but
go
let's talk
so many
about
parts. What are some practical things?
well, before we get into that, let's talk about we're mind body misfits. What does that mean? Because we came up with that. I remember
No.
I just got out of the car and I'm like, oh my God, Claudia, what do you think of this?
Yes,
Because we were
came
trying to
up
look
with
for a
it.
name for something because we've been collaborating on different workshops and stuff like that. But the idea of mind body misfits. Now, I have experienced both in the gym and in the yoga studios in the spiritual community as a metaphysical minister. I'm out there in the spiritual world. I'm using air quotes here, but I never felt as though I fit in. When I was in the fitness world and I was bringing in the mind body stuff, I felt like I didn't fit in. Then when I went into the spiritual world and the yoga studios, I brought in a lot of physical aspects and a lot of other modalities beyond yoga that I felt like I still didn't fit in. So that's where Mind Body Misfits, how I sort of felt drawn to that, because there's so many preconceived notions about what is a yoga teacher, what is a Pilates teacher, or what is a fitness instructor. And just
personal trainers, and they all sleep with their clients, and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Mind Body Misfits don't do that.
So Mind Body Misfits don't do that. They're not smart enough to do that.
I don't know about that, but
anyway, that's be another conversation for another day. But seriously, folks, don't make a big deal out of it. We will be saying that a lot, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Just don't make a big deal about it.
Just don't make a big deal out of it. Mind Body Misfits is basically how, for me too, the same thing, just coming into fitness, and then just like literally a baby. And that's how I don't have babies, but I understand how babies, they're not a lump of clay, but they have a brain that's, being formed, and whatever you put in it, just like a computer. So I was at a really important crossroads. Number one, had an accident, felt not normal anyway. So I got into the fitness thing, and that made me feel more normal. And then I got into the mind body part, in that same training. So it all felt really good, all done as one thing. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was like a child who learns 5 languages and grows up to teach 5 languages. I can't learn 5 languages now all at the same time. But for me, that's kind of how it feels, because I've always maintained and always been interested in different aspects. Like, I'm a misfit because I love bodybuilding. And when I was a yoga teacher, my yoga friends would always say, why do you have all that armor? And bioenergetically, I'd answer them. So, because I knew all the different modalities that I knew. Everybody has their own thing to bring to the table. This particular training just had all of the elements at once. So I believe that it was, for me, a lot more like I'm a misfit, because I still feel like that. And even though everybody's doing this, it was so, in the closet, so to speak, or shameful to, turn people on to their breath. I remember with one of my bodybuilding girlfriends, I'd give a Pilates cue during our strength training sessions, like, whatever, just focus on, right below the navel or something like that, which is also like a Tai Chi, metaphor too. So I would always say that in our training, and she'd be like, I don't know why you're always telling me to, breathe or to do this particular thing. So I think I've always felt like a misfit, even to this day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I know there's other people out there that probably feel very similarly. So just listeners know that you're welcome here.
You're
with
welcome,
all your
Carissa.
with all your
With all
misfit
your quirks.
pieces and all. Now I want to sort of,
But don't make a big
but
deal out
don't
of
make a big deal about it. Speaking of not making a big deal about it, let's talk about what we just recently did with the, like, it's a,
it. Okay,
like,
do we have
this,
time? All
just
right.
last month. Yeah, let's talk real quickly about our experience at CanFit Pro.
Okay,
So
great.
for those of you not familiar, CanFit Pro, the Canadian fitness professionals, they have an annual fitness conference in Toronto. And then a bunch of other small ones, but obviously 2020 changed the trajectory of live
The
experiences
fitness
like that.
industry, yeah.
And so it was nice to be in person. It was amazing to have you here. You spent some
Fabulous.
time in Canada at my home, which I still like. I love. I love that you were in my home. But I want to talk about the experience at CanFit Pro because so for me, I noticed, obviously, as many other people did, but I found out a lot of other people were making a big deal about it. The number of people that attended. So it was obviously less attended than previous years, but obviously it makes sense considering where we are in the world.
Less physically attended. I think that people are and then when people don't make a big deal of it, but
Yeah.
I think that there was also a whole online aspect of it that was,
We didn't
again,
see.
looking at the silver lining here, maybe events that are smaller, it was great. We had all this really awesome energy, right, in our sessions and connection with humans. And then people also got to see things online that maybe because they couldn't get there. So maybe, it'll just be this hybrid, but the people who really have the time and the energy and feel and already starting to feel more safe about coming, will build that back up. And I loved it. I really thought it was just that connection we made. Yeah, it's not the same industry, but I think it's going to be better in certain ways.
Yes. And thank you for that, because the point that I was trying to make, like walking through there, it almost felt like, the fitness industry was like, was obliterated in 2020. It went through so much. And I felt though, like when I reflect back on our time at CanFit Pro, I felt as though it was like we were at ground zero, and everyone that was present is now a part of rebuilding the industry, and we can rebuild it to look like whatever we want it to look like. So my question for you, Claudia Micco, Miss Mind Body Misfit, how would you like to rebuild the fitness industry? Where do you see it headed now that we're sort of on this side of 2020?
I see the same thing that I'm seeing. I'm seeing more people dealing with long-term trauma and long-term COVID, which we're going to get into another day on this, but this pandemic is my second pandemic that I've had to deal with. This one is actually much easier than AIDS. But dealing with chronic long-term conditions, which is what a lot of people have gotten from this, dealing with people who've died, friends who've committed suicide. I think that is something that happened, and now people are going to start to notice that they're going to need more assistance during sessions, because people, if they haven't worked on stuff, they are going to start breaking down at some point. It just is a matter of time.
Right.
It's just part of who we are. When you start moving the body, you start moving the person's body of history. So I think, and I mean this for our industry, is coming back to looking at what's going on with the whole person. I don't even want to say mental illness, because now you're going in a whole different direction. This is something that we need to stop separation on it. It's really an interconnectedness that we all share, number one. Mass trauma, honestly, in certain ways, because everybody has been through something. So I look for the ways that we are connected. And so the industry should really look at, instead of saying it's, mental health, it is. And some things have to be referred out always. But making that happen in our industry isn't just it's not going to be cut and dry. It's going to have to be weaved in,
Mm-hmm.
because people come and they are like chains that have been in a jewelry box for a really
Right.
long time. You know that
Mm-hmm.
analogy that I love, and they're all kinked together, and you start unwinding them, and sometimes they want to pull apart,
Yeah.
so you have to um, learn at that pace as well. And we have to work when we notice things happening with our clients, not just you can't exercise, you're going to go see a psychiatrist. I really don't want the industry to go into that direction with this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be nice to really get instructors and personal trainers to understand the beginning, the middle, and the endings and the circles as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you want to say mental illness, it has a beginning, a middle, and end, and it fucking starts over again. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not mental illness and it's something else, it may just have a beginning and a middle and an end. And you may be able to be a very valuable asset in somebody's healing.
Right. Yeah. I agree with a lot
That's
of
where
what
I
you
think
said.
that part of it's going to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't go into like, you're not qualified to, yeah, you're not, but people come to you in our industry and they're going to be doing it more and more and more,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
telling you their personal stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the self-care, which you do really well.
Yes, thank you. And I see, all the stuff that you said, I completely agree with. I see a huge focus on the whole body, and when I say body, I mean like the whole being, is the direction that we're moving in. Yes, I think it's good that people are a little bit more aware of the term mental health.
Yeah.
But it's the integration part, I think, is a direction that we're heading. Are people ready for that? I don't know, because the fitness industry has always been very, what's that word where it's all very like segmental. It's like, this is the body, which is separate from the mind, which is separate from the spirit.
Descartes started
Yeah.
that.
So it's like, so with everything that's like separate, I think, I mean,
and it's hard mindset to get out of.
Right. I think it's good that we have people more looking in the direction of the healthiness of our mind and the way we process emotion. But I think it's really imperative now that as fitness professionals, we move in the direction of not just understanding mental health, but incorporating mind, body, and spirit into the entire experience. And so I don't know. And it doesn't have to look a certain way. I'm not saying we all have to sit and meditate. It's going to look differently, but we got to integrate it.
Without making a big deal out of it.
Without making a big deal about it, which is what we plan on not doing.
Yeah,
we plan on not making a big deal about it in this podcast.
Yeah, we're trying not to. But yeah, that's the thing. So getting back to where the industry needs to go versus where it might be going. Yeah. And so all that stuff happens.
Mm-hmm.
Don't make a big deal out of it. Your client's gonna be passive aggressive sometimes. Don't make a big deal out of it. You're gonna be passive aggressive sometimes with your clients. Don't make a big deal.
Definitely don't make a big deal.
I use those terms loosely, by the way, right now. I'm just saying that the industry is going in this direction because we're dealing as humans and in our cellular consciousness with something was life changing. Mm-hmm. This is like people coming out of, World War II, maybe. Who knows what it is? But for some of our clients and for some of us, mm-hmm. right? Because, we were at the conference and we know that all of us have been through our connections. And this is why live conferences are really important. That's why I hope we get going to Camfit Pro next year, because the live connection that you make with somebody is sometimes more potent than reading about it or studying it on YouTube. Yeah. It's that one-to-one thing. So I think that's very valuable in getting the industry back as well, is because that's what we are. We're personal industry. We're personal trainer. It's implied in the name. Yeah. I'm a personal trainer, right? Yeah. So, you just by definition you have a relationship with your client that is of a certain form.
Mm-hmm.
That's different than working at Walmart and working with a customer. And it's just different. It's not better or worse. Probably make more money at Walmart, by the way, these days. That's another podcast we're going to have.
So on that note, though, I think let's wrap it up here.
And don't make a big deal out of it.
Don't make a big deal about it. So we've got a lot more excitement that's going to be coming your way. Claudia, you're going to be joining the Living Spiritfully podcast. We're getting together once or twice a month to have these kind of conversations. I'm really looking forward to that. And we'll be keeping you up to date on everything that we're doing. So check out our socials. I'll be back soon with my other co-host, Catherine Stilo. Some of you remember her from Come Alive, the Living Spiritfully podcast. And something that I'm really excited about, Heart to Heart is coming back. And I'm so excited for our first guest. I won't tell you who it is just yet, but just know that I am like sitting on I don't even know what the expression is. I'm just super ultra excited to introduce that guest to everyone.
And until we meet again, we are the Mind Body Misfits.
And remember, you don't need to fit in because, baby, you were born to stand out. We'll see you next time.
Aw, aloha.